Today I'm going back to Southern California to the Santa Clarita Valley to Spahn Ranch, Santa Susana Pass Road right here, and Spahn Ranch was in this location right here. Now what I want to focus on is I'm going to go over a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk about is here at Spahn Ranch, and I want to focus in on these three giant rocks right here, these three boulders. And the reason I want to focus in on them is because if you look at this old photo aerial view of Spahn Ranch, you can see Santa Susana Pass Road here, running from the east over here to the west over here. And these three boulders are right here. Over on this side, you can see where they kept the horses. You can see all the old buildings right here. But I'm focusing on these three boulders here because just to the side of these three boulders is the house where George Spahn used to live right here. Now, one of the things that used to bother me about people putting videos up about Spahn Ranch is they'd go down to the gully behind Spahn Ranch, which is right in here, and they'd go sit on the Charles Manson Rock, or they'd go to the cave, which you can see right up here in this old photo right here. But nobody ever really explained where it was. So I went there myself, videotaped it, and gave a better idea of where it is. And before I show you the videotape, I want you to know that the Charles Manson Rock is right behind the house here. If you walk down into the gully, there's a really steep embankment here. It's right down in these trees here, and just to the west of that slightly, maybe 50 feet, is where the cave is. But before I show it to you, this is what it looks like today. There are no more buildings. This is where the horse corral was. A lot of the buildings were right in here, and George Spahn's house was roughly right in here. And those are the three boulders. The trail goes down here into these trees, and it's roughly right in here where Charles Manson had his rock, and roughly right about in here is where the cave was.
So these three giant rocks, this one here, and that one right there, these are the three rocks that George Spahn's house was next to. His house was right here where these trees are, right in there. Okay, so right up here you see these rocks. There's three big rocks right here, and just to the right of those rocks from down here in the gully, that's where George Spahn had his house, right where those trees are, right in there. And right behind his house, if you came down this or come down this very, very steep trail right here, it leads you right to what they call Charles Manson's rock right here, that has been cut in half because apparently his name was carved into it and people were using it as a shrine and nobody wanted that. So they cut it in half, cut the piece off that had his name on it, and it's right here behind George Spahn's house location. And just beyond it, right up here, right in there, that's where the cave is. So the cave is here, Charles Manson's rock is here, and George Spahn's house was right there where that bushy tree is, just to the, from this direction, just to the right side of these three boulders right there. So Spahn Ranch is up over in this area. George Spahn's house was right up this trail here and to the left, and down over here by these trees is the rock that Charles Manson used to sit on, and just this side of it over here you have the famous cave.
Now, on August 26, 1969, a lady by the name of Barbara Hoyt heard some screaming, loud, horrid screaming, coming from down the canyon here. And it happened to be right here in this area where the screaming was coming from. Now, they're not certain, but they're pretty sure that's when Tex Watson, Steve Grogan, and Bruce Davis and Charles Manson were all murdering this guy here named Donald Jerome Shea. He was known as Shorty Shea. They were actually stabbing him and murdering him, according to Bruce Davis. Steve Grogan smacked him in the back of the head with a big wrench. Tex Watson stabbed him, and they took him down into this area here where they ended up killing him. And you can drive there. You can actually go to this spot and park your car right up in this road here. But you can see down at Street View, you can actually walk down in there, and there's a little trail that goes along the side here, but it gets very, very steep right in here, and you can find the actual location where they buried him and where Steve Grogan confessed, and they dug his body. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department dug his body up in 1977, or his bones actually. Now I had a guest from Norway come out, and he was curious. He wanted to see the Spahn Ranch area, Charles Manson's Rock, and the cave, and you saw that video. Now I'm going to put the video footage in of the area, very short video footage of the area where Donald Shea was murdered and buried.
Now here we are about I'd say about a mile east of Spahn Ranch, maybe a half mile. And this is supposed to be the water culvert where Donald Shea was inside. And story is that he was in here, he was screaming, or I don't know if they murdered him in here, but according to Barbara Hoyt, she could hear him screaming from this area all the way up to the Spahn Ranch, which is, like I said, about a mile away to the west. And I don't know if they murdered him here or if they just started to murder him here, but eventually he ended up down this creek, which is very steep, and there is a trail you can take that goes around through here and down very steep hill and down to where they buried him, and also to where the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department dug his bones up in 1977 after Steve Grogan confessed and told them where they buried his body. So I believe this is the rock right in here, and then right there in this flat area by this tree, it's flat here, and I'm pretty certain, could be wrong though, I'm pretty certain this is where Donald Shea, known as Donald Shorty Shea, was eventually buried right here. I don't know if they murdered him here or if they just buried him here, but I'm pretty certain this is where it happened, or this is where he ended up, and this is where his bones were dug up back in 1977 next to this rock. And the trail comes down from way up there. It's pretty thick down through here, very steep, and right to here, right in there. I'm not going to go down to it, too much brush, but pretty sure this is where it happened.
So there you go. Another visit to Spahn Ranch from Google Earth.